Silence is supposed to be powerful, right? A tool of self-respect, a strategy to create space and allow her to reflect, miss you, or even regret her actions. You've heard it before. Pull back, go quiet, and she'll come running. But what happens when your silence is met with nothing? No reaction, no curiosity, no change. It feels like you're shouting into the void, and instead of making her notice, it feels like you've just faded further into the background. If you've been here, feeling frustrated, confused, and wondering why the silence that was supposed to empower you is only making things worse, then you're not alone. The truth is, silence can be a powerful tool, but only when used in the right way and in the right context. If it's not working for you, it might be time to take a closer look at why that's happening and what to do next. In this video, we're breaking it all down. Why your silence might not be having the impact you expected, the mistakes you could be making, and most importantly, the actionable steps you need to take to turn the situation around and regain your influence. Let's begin. Number 1. Your energy is still pursuing her. It's not just about stopping communication. It's about where your energy is directed. If your thoughts, feelings, and actions are still revolving around her, even in silence, she can sense it. You might believe you're being distant, but your energy tells a completely different story. Picture this. You stop reaching out, stop texting, but you're still keeping tabs on her social media, obsessing over what she's up to, or wondering who she's spending time with. That invisible connection still exists, and trust me, people pick up on that. Silence without real detachment is like trying to extinguish a fire while you're still pouring fuel on it. It just doesn't work. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, often reminded himself to not waste energy on things beyond his control. Now think about your situation. Can you control her actions? Can you force her attention or validation? Absolutely not. The only thing you can control is where you invest your energy. Are you focusing on improving yourself, reaching your goals, and finding your peace? Or are you letting her thoughts consume you, silently? True silence isn't just about not speaking or avoiding texts. It's about redirecting your focus. When you shift your energy toward personal growth and becoming a stronger version of yourself, that's when silence becomes powerful. Imagine a man who walks away from a relationship but spends his time working on his fitness, learning new things, and pursuing what he loves. His energy transforms. He's no longer chasing, he's creating. This kind of silence carries real weight because it's backed by self-control and inner strength. That's the silence that gets noticed, not the one based on games or waiting for her to react. Ask yourself, where is your energy going right now? If it's still tied to her, it's time to cut that tie, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for your own peace. The moment you start living for yourself again, your silence will have a new meaning. It becomes a reflection of your growth, not a strategy to win her back. As the Stoics teach us, mastering life and relationships starts with mastering yourself first. Let her feel your absence, not through silence alone, but through the strength and focus that come from no longer chasing her. That's when you create real impact. Number 2, she doesn't recognize your value yet. If your silence seems to have no impact on her, it may be because your presence didn't leave a lasting impression. This isn't a knock on you. It's a chance to level up. One of the core ideas in Stoicism is to focus on what's in your control. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. So instead of wondering why she doesn't care about your absence, ask yourself, have you put in the work to become someone worth missing? Think of a man who constantly seeks approval. He's always texting, overcompensating, or apologizing for his very existence. When this guy goes silent, it's not seen as silence, it's seen as a relief. There's no void left because he never added enough value to make her truly miss him. Now contrast that with a man who's grounded, confident in who he is, and doesn't need others to validate his worth. His silence carries power. It's not a strategy or a game. It's simply a reflection of his belief that he doesn't need to chase anyone who doesn't see his value. That man has cultivated inner strength. His actions or lack of them naturally command respect. Stoicism teaches us that our worth is not determined by what others think, but by what we think of ourselves. So have you taken the time to build a life you're proud of? Are you nurturing your body, mind, and passions? Are you creating connections that uplift you rather than drain you? When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you stop worrying about whether she notices your silence. And paradoxically, that's when people do take notice. So if your silence isn't impacting her right now, don't take it personally. Use it as a signal, not to feel down or bitter, but to rise above. It's a prompt to improve yourself, not for her, but for your own sake. Build a life so fulfilling that your presence becomes a privilege and your absence a loss. As Epictetus wisely said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When you want less from others and more from yourself, you begin radiating an energy that's impossible to ignore. Focus on building your value, not to make her miss you, but to make yourself unshakable. And if she doesn't notice, don't worry. Someone who recognizes your worth will. Your silence will carry weight when it reflects a life well lived. A person who doesn't need external validation to feel worthy. That's when your silence will truly make an impact. Not because you intended it to, but because you've become the kind of person others can't help but notice. What are your thoughts on cultivating inner strength and becoming someone whose silence speaks volumes? Have you ever realized that the key was shifting your focus inward rather than outward? Share your thoughts below, or if this resonates with you, type "My silence has value" as a way to affirm your journey of self-worth and growth. Let's keep the conversation flowing. Number 3, you're playing by her rules, not your own. Here's a hard truth. If your silence is just a tactic to make her react, to make her miss you, or to get her back, you're not in control. You're still playing her game. Even if you think you're being bold or strategic, every time you catch yourself wondering, is she noticing my absence? Or, why hasn't she reached out? Зрение вы передаете власть ей. She's not winning because she's ignoring you. She's winning because you've attached your peace and self-worth to her response. And that's not a position of strength. That's a trap. Silence driven by expectation is always doomed to fail. Why? Because you're still attached to the outcome. You're waiting for her to text, to miss you, to realize she made a mistake. And when that doesn't happen, you begin spiraling. You question your worth, or worse, double down on manipulative tactics, which only push her further away. This isn't the energy of someone in control. This is the energy of someone desperate to win a game they shouldn't have been playing at all. Now let's shift the narrative. What if silence wasn't about her at all? What if it was all about you? Think about it. Silence can be incredibly powerful, but only when it comes from a place of self-respect and genuine detachment. Instead of using it to manipulate, use it as a tool to focus on yourself. Stop asking, "Is she thinking about me?" and start asking, "What do I need to do for my own growth right now?" True silence means putting the phone down. It means letting go of the need for validation or signs from her. It means redirecting your energy into your own life. Hit the gym, dive into a book you've been meaning to read, or spend time with people who lift you up. Silence isn't passive. It's an active choice to focus on yourself, not her. Here's the irony. When you genuinely stop caring about her reaction, that's often when she starts noticing. Why? Because true detachment is rare and it's magnetic. It's not about pretending to not care. It's about genuinely letting go. People are drawn to those who are at peace with themselves, who don't chase, and who don't need validation to feel complete. If your silence isn't making the impact you hope for, it's because you're still attached to the outcome. You're still playing her game. But the moment you decide to stop reacting, stop waiting, and stop hoping for a response, everything changes. You reclaim your power, you stop trying to control her, and you start controlling what really matters: your own growth, happiness, and life. And when you do that, you no longer need her reaction. That's real freedom. That's real strength. And that's when you win, not her game, but your own. Number 4, she knows you'll eventually cave. Consistency is key. If your silence is just a temporary strategy, or something you've tried in the past but couldn't keep up, why would she take it seriously? She's already seen the pattern. She knows that eventually you'll reach out, text, call, or try to reconnect. And when that happens, the silence you worked so hard to maintain loses all its power. It becomes nothing but noise. Predictable, empty noise. A true Stoic doesn't simply appear calm on the outside. Their calmness and resolve come from within. They don't rely on fleeting actions or manipulative games. Emotional manipulation? That's not the way of the Stoic. They are grounded in their principles, anchored by their inner strength. So ask yourself, are you being silent because you genuinely value your peace, growth, and dignity? Or is it because you're waiting for her to notice and respond? If it's the latter, she'll see right through it. People can sense when there's an underlying agenda or desperation driving your actions. That's why your silence feels hollow to her. It's not built on authenticity. Imagine this. A man decides to stop chasing after someone who's been pulling away. At first, he might feel anxious, checking his phone, wondering if she'll notice his absence. But as days pass, he begins to shift his focus. He picks up a book he's been meaning to read, reconnects with old friends, hits the gym, or learns something new. His silence is no longer about her. It's about him. And in doing so, he starts to transform. When your silence is rooted in a genuine commitment to yourself, it becomes powerful. It's not about punishing anyone or playing games. It's about protecting your peace, valuing your time, and taking control of your own life. This is what the Stoics meant when they said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Once you understand this, you'll find real strength. But if you waver, if you let emotions dictate your actions and break your silence too soon, it signals that you're not truly in control. She'll know you'll eventually give in, which makes your silence ineffective. So how do you change that? Shift the focus back to yourself. Stop waiting for her reaction and start building a life so fulfilling that her response, or lack of it, no longer impacts your sense of self-worth. When you do this, your silence will carry real weight. It won't be a tactic. It will be a reflection of your strength. And strength, my friend, is what speaks the loudest. Stay consistent, be patient, and above all, be true to yourself. That's the kind of silence that commands respect. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. How do you approach silence in your life? Is it a tool for self-growth, or do you secretly hope for a certain reaction? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone else. Or if you prefer fewer words, just type "True silence is strength" to let us know you're committed to developing inner resolve. We'd love to hear from you. Number 5, you haven't shifted your focus. Yet silence without action is like a boat adrift at sea. It's going nowhere and making no impact. Here's the tough reality. If you're not using this time to redirect your energy, your silence will be pointless. It will simply be time passing, and she likely won't even notice because nothing has actually changed in the dynamic between you. Silence has true power only when it's driven by purpose. If you're just waiting around, dwelling on what went wrong or hoping she'll eventually recognize your worth, your silence is being wasted. Silence without growth is a void. It doesn't have the weight to leave a lasting impression. The real question is, are you using this time wisely, or are you letting it slip away without meaningful change? The Stoics taught us to turn obstacles into opportunities. If your silence isn't making an impact, it's because you haven't redirected your focus to the one thing you can control, yourself. This is not the time to sit back and hope she notices your absence. This is your moment to focus inward, to grow, to evolve. The challenge here, the fact that she's distant or unresponsive, isn't the enemy. It's the opportunity, but only if you choose to see it as such. Picture this. Two people going through a similar situation, both decide to stay silent after a breakup or conflict. The first person spends his time glued to his phone, scrolling through her social media, obsessively rereading old texts, and reliving memories. He's stuck in the past, caught in a cycle he can't break. The second person uses that silence to rebuild himself. He hits the gym, takes up that hobby he'd always talked about but never started, and even starts meditating to find peace of mind. Over time, he exudes quiet confidence and self-assuredness that isn't tied to her. Which one do you think she's more likely to notice or miss? The one who's stuck or the one who's evolving? The truth is, people are naturally drawn to growth. When you focus on improving yourself, it's magnetic. It sends a powerful, silent message. I value myself enough to keep evolving with or without your attention. That's when your silence starts to make an impact. Not because you're playing games or trying to manipulate, but because you've shifted your focus from her to creating a life that feels fulfilling on its own. That shift in energy is what makes silence work. It's not the absence of sound, it's the presence of purpose. And here's the ironic part. When you fully commit to this journey of growth, you'll find that her reaction matters less and less. You'll become so focused on your own development that whether she notices or not will become secondary. That's when your silence gains real power, when it's no longer about her. When you've built a version of yourself that stands tall, grounded, and complete, regardless of her presence. That's what true strength looks like. Number 6, she doesn't feel your absence. Silence is impactful only when it creates a space, a void that is felt deeply. If your silence isn't moving her, it could mean something is missing, not just in your relationship, but in how you've shown up in her life. Think about it. Silence only stings when there's something valuable to miss, something you brought that filled the gap. If she doesn't feel that void, it might not be because she's indifferent. It could simply mean you haven't left an impression strong enough for her to notice your absence. This is about how you've positioned yourself in her life. What do you bring to the table? What makes you stand out? In Stoic philosophy, we're reminded to focus less on controlling others and more on becoming the kind of person who naturally commands respect. So ask yourself, what is it about you that she's meant to miss? Is it your ability to stay calm in chaos, your reliability when she needed support, or your unique way of making her feel safe and understood? If none of these things stand out, your silence might come off as more of a passing moment than a true absence. Take a second to reflect on your presence in her life. Think of someone who's made a lasting impression on you, a mentor, a friend, or even someone from a past relationship. When they weren't around, did you feel their absence? You probably did, because they brought something irreplaceable: consistency, depth, a unique energy. That's the kind of presence you need to cultivate. Here's the key. Silence isn't about playing games. It's about giving space for the other person to realize what they value in you. But here's the Stoic twist. You can't make someone feel your absence. What you can control is becoming the kind of person who deserves to be missed. Focus on your actions, your principles, and how you show up, not just for her, but in life. A man who is grounded in his values, steady in his emotions, and confident in his own path is someone whose presence is felt, even when he's silent. Picture two different situations. In one, a man goes silent, but his absence barely registers because he was inconsistent, unreliable, or just not remarkable. In the other, a man who was dependable, self-assured, and thoughtful takes a step back. His absence leaves a noticeable gap, not because he's trying to get attention, but because his authenticity and impact linger long after he's gone, like the scent of a beloved fragrance. If your silence is going unnoticed, it's not the end. It's a sign that you can still grow. Embrace the Stoic mindset. Focus on what you can control, your actions, thoughts, and the way you present yourself. Become a man who radiates value without needing to shout it out. And whether your silence speaks volumes or not, you'll know you've done your part to become someone of depth, character, and quiet strength. If you've made it this far, you're already on the right path to building your own strength and understanding. And that's the first step toward the kind of presence we've been talking about. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you in this message? How does this fit with your experiences? Share your insights in the comments below, or if you're not sure what to say, just type, "I'm building my quiet strength." Your reflections might inspire someone else on their journey. Number 7, she can predict your every move. If she knows exactly what you're going to do next, your silence loses its power. Instead of creating curiosity or making her wonder, it becomes just another step in a pattern she's already learned. Think about it. If your actions are too predictable, where's the intrigue? Where's the space for her to feel your absence or reflect on the situation? Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from events, but from our judgment about them." This means that the true impact of your silence, whether it works or not, depends on how you carry yourself, not just on being silent. Are you genuinely calm, centered, and self-assured? Or is your silence a calculated attempt to trigger a response? If your silence feels like it's designed to manipulate, it won't work. It'll fall flat. Here's an example. Imagine you've been texting her every morning without fail. One day you decide to go silent. At first she might notice, but if she already knows you'll eventually cave and reach out, your silence doesn't have the intended effect. Why? Because there's no real change in the dynamic. She's already learned your pattern. You've trained her to expect you to break your silence, and the intrigue is gone. Now let's flip the script. Instead of using silence as a tactic, why not embody emotional neutrality? This isn't about playing games or shutting her out. It's about mastering your emotions. Picture yourself as a calm sea, steady and unshaken, regardless of the storm around you. When you reach this level of emotional control, silence becomes a natural byproduct of self-respect. It's not a strategy, it's a reflection of your strength. She won't be able to predict your next move because you're no longer reacting to her. You're grounded in your own presence. What if she pulls back, gets distant, or doesn't respond? The natural instinct might be to match her energy, thinking that your silence will teach her a lesson. But that's not what Stoicism teaches. A Stoic remains calm, composed, and in control, not letting her actions disturb their inner peace. It's not about being indifferent, it's about maintaining balance. By being emotionally steady and unreadable in a calm, genuine way, you show that you're not playing into the emotional tug-of-war. You are unaffected by external circumstances, and that's what makes you intriguing. Mystery isn't about manipulation, it's about self-control. When you can sit with your silence without expecting a specific reaction from her, that's when your silence truly becomes impactful. It's no longer a tool to manipulate, it's a sign of your personal growth. You become intriguing, not because you're trying to be, but because you've stopped seeking validation. And that, my friend, is where real power lies. So the next time you're tempted to go silent to make her miss you, ask yourself, is this silence a reflection of my inner strength, or am I just hoping she notices? When your silence is born from genuine calm and self-respect, that's when it speaks volumes. Number 8, you haven't defined your boundaries. Silence can't be a substitute for clear boundaries. If you've never explicitly shared your expectations in the relationship, your silence won't have the impact you're hoping for. It's like trying to enforce rules without ever telling anyone what the rules are. It simply won't work. For silence to be effective, it needs to be backed by clear, communicated boundaries. Let's consider a situation where someone repeatedly oversteps a line, but instead of expressing, "This is what I need from you," or "I can't tolerate this," you pull away, hoping they'll catch on. The problem here is they won't. Without clear communication, your silence will lack the necessary power. It's like trying to send a message with no one to receive it. The Stoics believed that clarity and purpose in actions were essential to peace and strength. When you understand your own values and stand firm in them, you become unshakable. Communicating your boundaries is a way of saying, "This is who I am, and this is what I require." That transparency gives power to your silence because it's based on something real. Without that foundation, silence is just absence. It doesn't convey anything. Think of silence as part of a bigger picture, not the whole solution. When you've communicated your values, whether it's respect, trust, or fairness, your silence carries weight when those values are violated. It's a nonverbal message saying, "I've already made myself clear, and now I'm letting my actions speak." However, without ever having stated those expectations, your silence can't reinforce anything and loses its meaning. Before you pull back and go silent, ask yourself, have I been clear about my boundaries? If not, that's where you need to start. Speak up when it matters, set your boundaries with confidence, and then let your actions follow through. This doesn't mean over-explaining or defending your stance repeatedly. It means being clear, firm, and authentic about what you expect and what you won't tolerate. This approach aligns with Stoic philosophy. It's not about being reactive or letting emotions dictate your actions. It's about being centered in your principles and unaffected by others. You don't need to demand respect. You simply embody it and live it. Over time, when your boundaries are clearly established, your silence will become powerful because people will understand exactly what it stands for. Remember, silence without boundaries is just emptiness, but silence backed by clear standards is confidence and strength. It's the kind of stillness that commands respect without the need for words. So, if your silence isn't having the impact you want, maybe it's time to revisit the fundamentals. Set your boundaries, speak your truth, and let your silence reflect the depth of your integrity. Number 9, your silence needs purpose. Pause for a moment. Are you using this period of silence to genuinely reflect, grow, and realign with your values? Or is your silence just a way of hoping she'll take notice and come back to you? The difference is all about your intention. If you're retreating only with the expectation that she'll chase after you, then your silence isn't empowering. It's a form of manipulation driven by insecurity. People pick up on that energy, and it doesn't project strength. The Stoics were clear about this. They didn't waste time with gestures that lacked purpose. Every action they took was intentional, rooted in reason and clarity. If you're choosing silence, let it be meaningful. Use this time to invest in your mental, emotional, and physical growth. Reflect on your true needs and desires, not just in relation to her, but for yourself and your life. Silence should become an opportunity for self-improvement, not a method for trying to control her. Consider this scenario. Two individuals go silent after a breakup. One spends their days anxiously waiting, checking their phone nonstop, and counting the days until they hear from her. Their silence is filled with impatience, worry, and a lack of control. The other person uses that same silence to grow. They dive into their fitness routine, reconnect with passions they've neglected, and take time to process their emotions and become more resilient. When they eventually re-enter the scene, who do you think commands more attention? Who do you think she'll notice more? It's the one who focused on becoming better, not the one who just waited. Your silence should communicate a strong message. I am secure in who I am. I am evolving, regardless of anyone else's response. That's the kind of silence that carries weight. It's not about demanding attention, but rather commanding respect when you choose to speak again. The Stoic lesson here is simple. Your growth should always be about you, not her. When you adopt this mindset, you stop obsessing over whether she notices. Whether she responds or not becomes irrelevant. What matters is that you're becoming someone you can admire, someone you respect. So I'll ask you, what is your silence saying about you right now? If it feels empty or aimless, it's time to redirect that energy. Reflect, grow, and realign with your purpose. Don't wait for her to take notice. Give yourself something that's worth noticing. That's how you transform empty silence into purposeful growth. That's how you reclaim your power. Number 10. Next steps. Build, don't wait. What comes next? It's straightforward. Build. Focus on becoming the kind of person who thrives, regardless of external validation. This journey isn't about her, it's about you. Even if you need to take small steps at first, the important thing is to start. Begin with your physical health, not with the intention of impressing her, but to strengthen your body and remind yourself of your own resilience. Work on your finances, not to show off, but to create an independent life where you're in control. Cultivate your mindset, because true freedom comes from mastering your thoughts. A man who's not ruled by his emotions is an unstoppable force. Imagine a man who's deeply hurt after a relationship ends. She walked away, leaving him devastated. For weeks, he hoped she might come back. But one day he realized he was wasting time waiting for someone who wasn't thinking about him. He took control of his own life. He started running every morning, not for her, but for his own mental clarity. He enrolled in courses to advance his career, not to prove anything, but to secure a strong future. He read books on philosophy and self-discipline, finding an inner calm he hadn't known existed. Months later, when she finally reached out, he had changed so much that he didn't recognize the person he once was. She noticed, but by that time, it no longer mattered. This is the kind of transformation we're talking about. The goal isn't to make her miss you. The goal is to become the kind of man who doesn't need her approval to feel complete. As you focus on your own growth, you'll realize that external validation, whether from her or anyone else, loses its power. You become unshakable. What if she never notices? You might wonder, what if she never notices? Was this silence a waste of time? The truth is, it doesn't matter. This is not about her. It's about redirecting all that energy you've been spending on, wondering what she's thinking, into becoming the best version of yourself. Here's what happens. You stop measuring your worth based on her reactions. Once you reach that point, everything changes. Whether she notices or not becomes irrelevant. By then, you'll be so focused on your own growth that her attention won't even matter. A Stoic thrives in any situation. Your silence isn't a strategy to get her back. It's a chance to pause and focus on your own path. Let her do what she will. Your energy should be spent building a meaningful, fulfilling life for yourself. When you focus on growth, you won't just get through uncertain moments. You'll rise above them. And when you do, the real question won't be whether your silence impacted her. The question will be whether you even want her in your life anymore. That's the power of taking control of your own narrative. So take this time to build, not for her, but for yourself. Trust me, the rewards will far surpass anything her attention could ever give you. In conclusion, the true power of silence isn't in what it demands from others, but in what it cultivates within you. As we've discussed, if your silence isn't having the desired effect, it may be time to shift your focus inward. See this moment as an opportunity to grow, reflect, and transform. A Stoic man doesn't gauge his worth based on external validation. He thrives by mastering himself and embracing his own inner strength. The key takeaway is simple. Don't wait for her to notice. Build a life that commands respect, whether or not she acknowledges it. When your silence is rooted in purpose, authenticity, and self-respect, it will speak volumes more powerfully than any words could. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What's one step you'll take today to refocus your energy on personal growth? Your insights could inspire someone else. If you found value in this video, please like it. It helps others find these insights. Feel free to share it with anyone who might benefit. And don't forget to explore the recommended videos on screen for more on mastering your mindset and relationships. Thank you for watching. Keep growing, keep building, and stay grounded. See you in the next one.